the message. And what you see here, that is the postsynaptic neuron. That's the one that's receiving the message, so which are called action potentials. When it travels down the axon and reaches the tip, it causes the release of neurotransmitter chemicals to be released from the neuron, and they leave and they bind to receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. And when this happens, it induces an electrical current to start on the next neuron. And this is how the communication occurs. So after the neurotransmitter binds, it then gets released back into the synapse and then gets reuptaken, or in a way recycled, cleared from the synapse, by means of the reuptake protein. Now, my study focuses on these reuptake proteins because this is the site of where drugs are interacting. So let's take a look at say, cocaine. This is what happens when cocaine is present. You have a blockage of that reuptake protein, as you see here. So when the neurotransmitters are released, they bind, but then when it's time for reuptake, they can't be cleared from the synapse. And the more that this blockage occurs in the synapse, the receptors on the postsynaptic cell continue to be stimulated and continue to send those actions, and continue to induce those action potentials on the postsynaptic cell. So what you see here, this would be in the case of what would happen when someone was using cocaine or a high. So in order to understand the relationship between the neurotransmitters and their reuptake proteins, we have to understand that there's a correlation between shape and function. It's like a lock and key model. You have certain neurotransmitters that will bind to their certain neurotransporter, like you see here. So imagine these are neurotransmitters and substrate. When they bind, they fit because of their shape. And this is how you get specificity. And later on, this will come into play. This will be a big part. So looking at this, my study focuses on 3 specific neurotransmitters: dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin, because of their neurotransmitter transporter reuptake proteins. And these specific class of proteins are part of the neurotransmitter sodium symporter family, which means that they require sodium ions in order to complete the transport. And the reason why these are so important, that they correlate to DAT, NET, and SERT, is because in the human body these are found, and that's where drugs like cocaine, antidepressants, amphetamines, Prozac, they're all acting on these proteins that you see here. So it's critical that we study these. Now, the problem is, it's these specific proteins, DAT, NET, and SERT, that are found in the human body are difficult to work with in laboratory settings. Proteins are like this. They're like people. They're moody. It's a characteristic that some of them are easier to work with than others. So in my study, I used a bacterial homologue lutein. And what a bacterial homologue is it's not a human protein. It's a bacterial protein, but it's shaped the same way as DAT, NET, and SERT. And going back to that shape and function relationship, because it's shaped in the same way, we can get these drugs to bind to lutein in the same way that they would bind to DAT, NET, and SERT. And because of this, it makes it a viable template that's easy to work with and is most definitely stable in laboratory settings. So this is why, for my study, I used lutein. And then just to give you an idea of what exactly goes on with a transporter, is you have the extracellular matrix, which would be the outside of the cell. You have the cytoplasm on the inside. And when a transport occurs, first the protein is in a set position, but then it changes its configuration. It opens. It goes into like an open position. And then you have the ions and the neurotransmitter or substrate. They bind. The protein changes its configuration and closes, and then it opens to the inside. And then you have the substrate and ions. They disassociate and then are released back into the cell. So it's kind of like a door. You can think about it this way. But this is what happens. And what you see on the right is a realistic model of lutein itself. So you can see the shaded region, the highlighted region in here, is a binding site, similar to like what you see here. So you can see where exactly things are binding. So originally it was thought that leucine, which is what binds to LuT, had only one site that was needed for transport. New evidence, which is the work of my mentor, Dr. Quick, suggests that the substrate must bind to LuT in both a first site and a second site, which is different from the original model that you had just seen that has been accepted for about 40 years now. But this newer research suggests that there could be a second site based on studies done with drug binding. And to give you a better idea of what that actually looks like, you can see it right here. So this would be LuT. And what you see here, this is the S1 site. This is the one that has been known for 40 years or so now. But what you see here, this is one drug. It's called CMI. It's a tricyclic antidepressant. And we know that it causes the same effect. It inhibits, it prevents leucine from binding, but look where it is. It's in a different spot. So this creates a contradiction. What does this mean? You have binding in one spot, but it's causing a blockage, but it's in an entirely different spot. Well, this means that leucine must be interacting up here. So this is what led to the belief of the S2 site. So the hypothesis was CMI inhibits transport by directly competing with substrate binding in the S2 site and not in the S1 site like you just saw. So the way I tested this was using mutations. Now, in science, oftentimes you test what works by finding out what doesn't work. You change something to make whatever it is you're working with ineffective, and that's exactly what's going on here. So I had 3 different proteins. I had normal LuT, and then I had a mutation known as F253A, which you see here, and that was a mutation in that S1 site. The second mutation, L400S, had a mutant in the supposed second site, S2 site, right near CMI. So to give you a bit of what the results came out look like, which did support the hypothesis exactly. The first big observation was when you take normal LuT, as you see by this black line right here, and you add leucine, you see 100% of binding. And this makes sense because if you look at this picture right here, both sites, both the S1 and S2, are clear, which allows for binding in both sites, so you see 100. You have the L400S exemplified by this picture here, and you see nearly exactly 50% of binding. And this happens because there's a mutation in the S2 site. And when you think about it, 1 out of 2, one works, one doesn't, 50% of binding. It's a near perfect ratio. So then we look at the third mutant, which is F253A, which had that mutation, which you can see right here. Had the mutation in the S1 site, and again, we see 50% of binding because 1 out of 2 sites, it's the same thing, are working. So now we repeated this experiment, but only this time we added an inhibitor. We added the drug CMI. So looking, these are the models that correlate with this graph right here. So in the presence of an inhibitor, CMI, first we look at unmutated LuT right here. You see that you get 50% of binding. And we can explain this because looking at this picture right here, S1 is clear, but because CMI is locating in the S2 site, you get 50%. So that's why we see this. Next, when we move on to L400S, illustrated by the green line, you have, again, it plateaus at around 50%. But the reason why you see this is because even with the inhibitor, you have the S2 site that's occupied and not functioning properly, but then you also have the mutation. So it's altogether just a sloppy S2 site, which is why you see 50% of binding. Because the S1 site is clear, that's again why we see that result. Lastly, when we look at F253A illustrated in red, and illustrated by this picture right here, you have CMI occupying the S2 site. So that knocks that one out, so leucine can't bind. Then when you add the mutation in the S1 site, then you fully knock out both sites. They're both not binding properly, which is why we see such low amounts of binding. So just to give you an idea, this is how in the lab what I tested. I had my proteins, and we add the different combinations, the different variables into these wells that you see right here. and lots of pipetting. And the data was gathered through this machine right here, which is a photomultiplier tube, which counted counts of binding. So the so what, who cares of this all? Why is this relevant? Why is it important? Well, based on the dual binding mechanism in lutein, it's likely that this mechanism is also found in those human proteins. So basically what that's saying is if this is happening in lutein, that means it's happening in the human transporters, which is extremely important in taking the next step forward in improving treatments for addiction and depression. Also, it's by finding this specific mechanism, it has the potential to one day be targeted because it is something that we can target in terms of therapeutic treatments because it's very specific. It can allow for further manipulation of drugs to specifically fit this kind of mechanism. And based on that, we can go even further to create drugs that will have less side effects. And I would like to thank my mentor, Dr. Matthias Quick, and Dr. Christine Rogers, the Science Research Director, for allowing me to have this excellent opportunity.
Thank you.
Those pictures, Audrey, how did you take the pictures?
The pictures
Yeah, what kind of pictures?
of which ones?
The ones you were showing, like the three at the bottom with the curlicules in them?
Oh, the proteins? Okay, these come from a software. These are given to me by Dr. Quick. There's a certain software where you can model the proteins and you can get the animated versions of them and zoom in and see the different parts of the protein.
And so where are you actually doing the work at? The machine that you showed us, is it Dr. Quick's lab, or?
Yes, this is all done in Dr. Quick's lab.
So you do it all, you have to go from here to there?
Yes, yeah, during the summer, part of the science research program is during the summer you have to, when you work in a lab, that's when you do the majority of your study because that's when you have the time to. So during the summer for the past 2 years now, I went to Dr. Quick's lab during the week, and it's very much like a job. I got on the train every morning and went to the lab and came home, and that's kind of how the study works.
It's excellent that you put in the time and the effort to do such a worthwhile program.
Thank you.
And it's very worthwhile also that we're able to have mentors that are willing, to work with our students. So thank you to everybody who's doing that.
Stand up and take it
Yes,
out.
we really appreciate
I
it.
absolutely
Thank
think
you.
what you're doing is it's wonderful, and I congratulate you and thank Dr. Rogers and Dr. Quick, and sorry, I commend the parents as well, because she couldn't have done this without you as well. Thank you you make us proud, and we talk all the time about what HenHUD can offer our students, and you are proof of that.
Absolutely.
And I thank you for putting in the time and effort, because it's not as common as you would think.
Thank you very much.
And if I can just, one more, Dr. Rogers is truly, you know how I feel. I have to tell you from personal experience, my son worked with her, and it truly was his entree into, it's what he's doing now. He's still focusing on orthopedics, he's still focusing on med school, and it all started in your labs. And the connections he's made have helped him personally and professionally, and for that I'm so grateful. So it looks like you have an equally wonderful opportunity, so congratulations.
Thank you very
And
much.
thank you, Dr. Rogers.
Thank you. Absolutely.
I'd like to make one quick comment. And this speaks because I've known Miss Heck since she was a little girl at Girl Scout meetings tackling my daughter. And this is one of those times people ask us sometimes, why are you on the board? What do you do? And this is one of those times you see a confluence of a student and a family who've taken the opportunity, and they have the ability, the desire, and the support, and the perseverance to go on and do something like this. And it's so great. And it's not necessarily just the science research program. Things we do, like the ABC program, the Autistic Children's, you see a child who reaches out and does more than you expect. And we see it in so many different places. This is one of the reasons when it's fun to be on the board, that we can offer these opportunities and put it out there, and that our teachers and our staff help you to grow more than you could expect in any other way. So we appreciate you having the perseverance and the ability and taking advantage of the opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's given the science research program, and not just the science research program, HED overall, it's been an experience that has driven me personally to pursue science in the future. So I'm very grateful for both
We're
my
very
mentor and my
grateful.
teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
There are many board meetings that I've been to in my educational career,
That's good.
and this is one that I know I'll leave asking more questions and wondering what in the world we just heard, but certainly this is one meeting.
But tweeting it like
Well,
crazy.
tweeting it, yeah, you'll be on Twitter. But leaving a board meeting with the work that this group has to do and some of the tough decisions, it's great to take a minute and pause and celebrate and certainly learn. And it's a great segue to our next presentation. Members of our elementary curriculum team, our 3 elementary principals and some of their staff. This is sort of a bookend. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Dad.
yeah, right
Of
here.
course.
please.
Completely
Yes,
forgot,
please,
I'm
come up.
sorry.
This will take
Yeah.
just a short moment. Forgive me.
No, thank you.
My name is Jason Hecht. I'm here with my wife Karen. We're Audrey's parents. I was going to say mentors, but I just want to read a very quick statement. To the Hendrick Hudson School Board and Superintendent Hochreiter, my wife and I would like to express a profound gratitude to Dr. Christine Rogers, Dr. Matthias Quick, and all the remarkable teachers in our school district who have enabled our daughter Audrey to become a semifinalist in the Intel Science Talent Search competition. This achievement is a direct result of Dr. Rogers and Dr. Quick's boundless commitment to the science research program at Hendrick Hudson High School. All budding scientists need mentors, and Dr. Rogers' relentless efforts to involve scientists in our high school is only one of her many talents as an outstanding educator. 2 years ago, Dr. Quick became Audrey's mentor. Dr. Quick spent many hours at our home after his workday, introducing Audrey to his research project and arranged for her to become a working member in his laboratory at Columbia University. Dr. Quick provided critical guidance in the formulation of Audrey's research project, preparation of competition presentations, and editing of her Intel research paper. His commitment to our daughter's success was both inspiring and humbling. Dr. Rogers was particularly instrumental in helping Audrey to understand the relevant scientific literature. This required Dr. Rogers to read many complex scientific articles and clarify material that Audrey found confusing. Dr. Rogers also played an essential role in assisting Audrey to prepare her poster presentations and accompanied her to every science research competition. I would like to point out that the support and attention that Audrey received from Dr. Rogers is not unique. She provides in-depth guidance to all her science research students. Her dedication and enthusiasm is truly unbounded. In sum, we are deeply grateful to the Science Research Program for giving Audrey such a wonderful opportunity to pursue her intellectual passions that have brought her this reward. Thank you.
I'm done. I'm like, I'm in tears here. As a parent, I feel exactly how proud, you're wonderful, and you've done a great job. I mean, and I'm so proud of you, the district, so. And again, I thank Dr. Rogers and all, I mean, there were several mentors that were listed. It's truly inspirational, and I thank you for that. So, I guess we can go on to the next.
No, we'll just move right on.
You guys have a tough
Train-
act to follow.
Train keeps rolling here. This really is a good segue. Dr. Rogers talked about inquiry-based science, and it's a second language and a way of problem solving and approaching things. We also heard, and Audrey made this statement, which stuck with me, that we determine what works by testing what doesn't work. And when you think of that statement and think of students today, it screams of resiliency, stick-to-itiveness, soft skills that sometimes are learned on ball fields and in science labs, and oftentimes we don't have the ability or the time in the day to teach those skills in our classroom. And so to see what one of our great budding scientists looks like just a few months away from graduation, it's also a great time to talk about some of the foundation skills and decisions that we're making to create an environment where students can learn those skills in reading, writing, and math, so that students like Audrey and her peers can compete at a very, very elite level in science. It's incredible. But the foundation is equally as important. And
Establish the pipeline.
yeah, exactly. So with that, I'd like to bring up Dr. Gottlieb and our team of elementary curriculum specialists who are going to give us a brief update on some of the happenings that are going on K through 5 in reading, writing, and math. And this group got together because we learned in short order that we have a big task ahead of us to implement a new curriculum while appreciating and blending in some of our traditions and some of our curriculum decisions that we've made historically over the years. Certainly, I don't need to speak about the Common Core and how politically charged that may or may not be. But the reality is, we've been asked to teach different standards to students across New York State. And this is an opportunity for this group of elementary staff to share with the board and the community how we're going about doing that, how we're making decisions, who are the decision makers, and how we're rolling out those decisions and supporting our teachers so that more Audreys are in the pipeline. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Gottlieb.
Thank you. And Audrey, you certainly are an inspiration. So we have this huge challenge, and it's throughout our district and throughout our state to meet the challenges of the Common Core. Our special challenge in our district is that in our middle school and our high school, we've got departments working together every day. But in our elementary school, we have 3 elementary schools across the district, and all needing to be, if not on the exact same page, at least in the same ballpark of our work. So, where'd it go?
She who controls the clicker.
There you go. The clicker keeper.
Keeper of the clicker. What'd you do to it?
It's a PDF, so you have to.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, all right, thank you. Anyway, I'm just introducing, it's the teachers and working with the principals who are doing the hard work, but it's a full committee from every grade level in every school, working on 3 different areas, reading, writing, and mathematics. We're working with a wonderful consultant. She's somewhat of a rock star in our district, and she's brought the committee together, working collegially, working collaboratively, and planning always for the next session at each meeting. So we've met with Judy Carr as a full group, twice with the full group. We were supposed to meet today, but she flies to work. She lives in Florida, and she got here late in the day, and also we had the delay. So we will meet with her again on March 19th. But meanwhile, the individual committees are meeting weekly in the various buildings, and they have a huge charge. And basically, it's to figure out how to meet the Common Core right now in the immediate, and going forward, what materials we'll need. So the next, please. I'm now handing the baton to the reading committee. And I don't know who from the reading committee is presenting. It's one of the teachers, I believe. Janine Haferman.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm Janine Hafman. I'm a reading teacher at Frank G. Lindsay Elementary School. Our facilitator for this committee is Mrs. Donna Teresi. And I just want to thank the committee members that came for support tonight. Marie Manners here, Sherry Lutwich, and Carolyn Schulman also hopped on our committee a little midway through. So the reading committee has been doing a lot of work together. It's a really great group of teachers with lots of different experiences. From all 3 elementary schools. We meet every Wednesday at Frank G. Lindsay, usually from 2:30 to 3. If we need more time, we go past the school day. We meet together to start the meeting, and we found that working in subgroups, like a K2 group and a 3-5 group, was more manageable to address the needs of our respective grade levels. So we start the meetings together as a whole. We debrief, or we kind of talk about what our goals are for the day, and then we go into our groups, and then we meet again for share outs, for suggestions, criticisms, other things we need to do. We set our goals for the following week, and we set time to look ahead at what we need to accomplish for the future. I have my notes, but I could look at that. Okay. Well, the K2 group has selected a domain from Engage New York to use to address the listening and learning standards, or the listening and learning strand. They'll be teaching a nonfiction domain that the reading committee has suggested to tie in with the science curriculum. The domains and the modules, as we call them in grades 3 through 5, they're very enriched with social studies and science curriculum, so we thought the committee suggested a domain that would tie into the K2 science curriculum. K2 will also continue to use the Foundations program and Storytown to drive the skills-based instruction. Those are 2 of our programs that our teachers are really comfortable with and have been really effective in our elementary schools. Grades 3 through 5 adapted Module 1 of the Engage New York Expeditionary Learning curriculum to address the Common Core. The Engage New York website, as many people are familiar with, is a tool and a resource to meet the needs to address the Common Core. There's a lot of nonfiction texts with very enriched academic vocabulary, novels, and various reading strategies that address the Common Core learning standards. As a committee, we've taken our biggest challenge was to take the current programs that we're using and adapt them to the Common Core standards. So our Storytown at Furnace Woods and Frank G, and our trophies at BV, we've looked at the various texts, fiction, nonfiction, and we've used different resources that are online, such as the website Edmodo, and that provides us with a lot of resources to tailor our instruction so that it's more Common Core-like. Our questioning technique has had to change a little bit. So with the help of these resources, we've been able to kind of adjust and try new things, adjust our teaching strategies and our questioning strategies to address the new standards. That website has been very helpful and quite a resource. And our next steps as a committee is to prepare for the following year, for 2014-2015, because that will be here before we know it. So that's our goal for the upcoming meetings and the upcoming months. We hope to have a set, solid plan by the time everybody has their bags packed in June. So that's the reading committee, and thank you for coming.
Are the websites used by the students or the teachers? By the teachers?
The website, like that one that I referenced, Engage New York is a website that has the modules that we're using with the work, our lesson plans, things. We use it as a resource, not so much as the set in stone. Teachers are using it. There's a lot of great videos and resources that parents can also view and watch and read to become a little bit more familiar with the new strategies and the new ways teachers are teaching things. The website Edmodo that I referred to is more for teachers of how they could tailor their lesson plans and their texts to meet the needs of the Common Core. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lorraine Giametta. I'm a resource room teacher at Furnace Wood School, and I just want to say congratulations, Audrey. I'm in awe of your presentation. I can't believe that I was nervous about coming up here when you were so poised and confident. You just blew me away. Okay, anyway, I was asked to come here tonight to tell you a little about the work of the Writing Committee, of which I'm a member. I'm one of the special education teachers. We also have 6 classroom teachers that represent grades K through 5, and our facilitator is Josh Cohen, principal of BV School. Okay, our major objective, of course, is to incorporate the Common Core writing standards into our current ELA curriculum. And this is no easy task because unlike the reading and the writing Common Core, the state really hasn't provided much in the way of guidance regarding writing and the way it should be implemented. So it's up to us to try and really explore in-depth the modules, the Common Core standards, and really understand them and have a deep understanding of them so that we can incorporate them into what we're currently doing. The other objective that we have is to research what's needed to assist the teachers in the craft of writing, which is very important as well. We've done this in a few ways. We've gone to grade level meeting discussions and tried to find out, what teachers need and what they want in the area of writing. We've also developed a survey for teachers to fill out, and we're gathering the responses now and trying to analyze them, and we'll use the input from that to further our work in this area. We've explored a few different writing programs, published writing programs that have already incorporated the Common Core standards into them, and we've also looked at some best practices in other districts and other states who've developed their own curriculums and included the Common Core in those. So we've gotten a lot of ideas through all of the research that we've done. The last and most important was the vertical conversation we had with middle school teachers who had training in one of the writing programs that we had looked at. It was very interesting to see their take on what they learned, how they implemented in their school, and the pros and cons according to what worked and what didn't for them. And even though they didn't feel like they helped us very much, I think they helped us a great deal in figuring out what direction we might be wanting to go in now that we know what they experienced. So that was very, very helpful. Okay, basically these are the 3 types of writing that are required by the Common Core, and they cross all grade levels in the elementary level from K through 5. The first is argumentative, which is also called opinion writing in the early grades. So K through 5, kids are being asked to learn how to have an opinion and support it with reasons. As they go up through the grades, of course, it's a hierarchy of skills that builds, and they're required to do more and more each grade level, but it's built on what they did the grade level before. When they get into 6th grade through 12th, then it's more of an argumentative type of writing where they not only have an opinion, but they're being asked to change someone else's mind by the reasons and the data that they give for that opinion. The second one is informative or explanatory writing, and in the purposes you can see there, children are going to explore a subject matter. Usually it's nonfiction and present it in a logical, sequential way in their writing. And the last is narrative, and narratives are storytelling, and it can be real or it can be fictional, and it's meant to inform and instruct and persuade the reader and entertain the reader as well. So the next steps for our committee, we need to make a decision regarding how we're going to incorporate the Common Core writing standards into what we're currently doing. And the 2 options that we have in front of us right now are either purchasing a published program or using our committee, our members, to create our own synthesis of the standards with what we're currently doing. And then as well trying to incorporate what we're doing with what reading is doing, because reading and writing are very interconnected. The research that we've done so far, the meetings that we've had so far are leading us, I think, in one of those 2 directions, but we haven't made a decision just yet. So that will be coming up soon, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Such good work. Before we move on to math, obviously we all know that reading and writing are very closely related. We needed first to look at specifically what we were doing in reading, what materials we needed, what we were doing for a cohesive program in writing. But we're just about ready to reconfigure these groups, and we'll have a K2 literacy group reading and writing, and a 3-5. But we needed to do the background research first. Essentially, what will happen is, based on the findings of the reading committee, the writing will go along with the reading. But we can't forget that while we're teaching writing, we're not just teaching children how to respond to reading in their writing, but we're also teaching them the craft of writing, so that we have people like Audrey who can win these incredible competitions on their scientific writing. You know, there's a craft to that as well. It's not just writing about what you're reading. So it's a pretty in-depth study at this point, and math will blow you away. The math instruction in this district right now in our elementary schools is impressive, and we have to thank this group for a lot of this work. So
question.
math.
Does it look like the state's recommendations for curriculum are going to stay pretty stable for next year?
Only if you have a crystal ball.
I guess, I have another quick question before we go on. I was looking at all of these, and we're looking at improving our graduation rate. One of the places where we're not, and statewide is not doing well, are in two groups, special education graduation and ESL graduations, and we don't have an ESL teacher represented on either of these groups, any of these groups. What, is it a scarce resource? What?
Actually, no, it's not that it's scarce resources. We're looking at the core Tier 1 instruction in these groups. We're not looking at the support for specific groups. We're not looking at the interventions through this work. We're looking at the basic core instruction for all children. We were talking today, Judy was here briefly, and we were talking about the remediation piece or the intervention piece, but we don't want that to be that can very easily take over because when in committee work, because those are the kids we're most worried about. But we need to get our core first. We're not forgetting the kids with needs.
And Alice, at some point,
Everyone's
do
taking the same test, that's right.
Do the two separate committees intend, I'm sure, to get together? And reading will meet with the writing committee? And
They'll be merged. I'm sorry I wasn't
Okay.
clear.
Yeah,
The
that's
K through
what I
2
would like to
teachers
say.
on the committees will become one literacy committee, and the 3 through 5 teachers will
Thank you.
become one. I'm sorry I wasn't clear on that.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that that's where,
Oh, absolutely.
we were going. Thank you.
So we have a mathematics committee working very hard as well, and Mary Fanning is here.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Mary Fanning, Buchanan Verplank, fourth grade teacher. And I also want to say congratulations. Very impressive, and good luck to you in the future. You're going to do great. The math committee is led by Dr. Helene Kane. We have a great committee. We have a great committee. And it's a lot of work, and we're moving forward with it. So our objective is to be working to build a professional learning community. It includes everybody. We need everybody to be working together. We recognize that all the work together to achieve and promote collaborative culture. We need the learning for our students. So some of the highlights that we've been doing, it's very exciting. We did get a consultant, Alexandra Greenberg, which of course you know. Of course we got snowed out and I didn't get to actually meet her myself, but what was so exciting is that hearing all the teachers saying how wonderful she was. And what was so nice about it is that she's really pulling a focus in the Common Core and doing the math behind the modules and what that meaning is. And that's truly what we really need. So doing that with the committee, I think part of it too is just to ease everybody's eagerness and frustration, if you will, for some, and working with the parents as well. When the parents are feeling comfy, teachers are comfy, the kids are going to be learning, and that's the snowball effect that we need to have here. So with our units of study, again, we're looking forward to, I think she has third grade left and fourth grade. Is it left?
Alexandra, she was here last week working with fifth grade. We're working down. Unfortunately, fourth grade was snowed out, but we'll reschedule. And they were doing real math. They weren't just doing the structure of the modules. They were studying the mathematics.
And the meaning
nice.
behind which is great. Another one of the programs that we have, again, using as resources is our Math Buddies. I know some of you are familiar with that. Again, it's a very exciting resource, and technology uses, the children can use it at home. We use it as a tool in the classroom. Working very closely with the development team of Math Buddies to really align it with the Common Core per se, and Engage New York, excuse me. What we'd like is both. So it really becomes a hand-in-hand tool. We'll have our modules, and then Math Buddies. He's very excited to collaborate with us. We made a nice list for him. I will be working with the development team via phone calls and conference calls and that kind of thing. He really seems to want to help out and make this work. So that's an exciting, looking forward that hopefully next year with the Common Core and the Engage New York will all fit hand in hand. Another great resource that we'll be doing. Family nights, we're doing math in all 3 schools. Furnace Woods has already done their math one night. Maybe some of you have been there. It was very nice to do a nice survey with the parents, listening to them and compiling what their questions and concerns were. We bring that forth to the math night, which is now happening at Frank G. And we will be able to recognize some of their concerns and bring that forward with them. Again, answering those questions will bring that further to BV as well. So it makes everybody feel like they're really a part of it. Now with that, some of what we're working here of parents, again, support for our parents. You know, it's very interesting, everybody's saying things like, gee, well, you know, we didn't do it that way, that's not what we did. And they're right, we didn't do it that way. Questions are, gee, Mary, I mean, isn't the bottom goal that they know how to do this? And we say, well, you know what, that is the bottom goal, but what we're really teaching is for meaning. We are developing a thinker, scientifically, mathematically, in every which way. We need to know why we're doing this. We have students who can walk in and just maybe do natural long division, but then when you say, gee, let's break that apart and do why we're doing it, they're not very clear on that. So this is a nice way of showing them how they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing. So it brings meaning, and it brings forth higher thinking, which is what we need. So it's great, and the parents are now feeling a little more comfortable about it. The more they get involved, the more they are feeling comfy. Engage New York is a great tool, resource, along with what we also have some internet resources that we're providing a list for the parents as well. A lot of the parents are so excited, they're like, oh wait, where do you buy that? Get the manipulatives, do this. There's a lot of resources online that will help them as well. So it is nice, we're collaborating. We're really excited for the year coming up. Look for some great things. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have to say, you know, it's my 7th year in the district. This is the most exciting work I've seen with our elementary schools. And to have teachers involved to the level that they are, I mean, that's where the real work happens. So this is going to be lasting. It's pretty great. So thank you all.
Thank you. No?
Actually, I had a comment from the Diane Ravage speech. I ran into Mrs. Podesta, one of our former administrators, and she was really excited, just the secondhand news that she had gotten about the work this committee has been doing. She was very excited relaying it to us, how pleased the people on the committee were. So that was nice to hear, you know, secondhand how good things were going.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your commitment. And I mean, I know it's a lot of work. At the end of the day, you guys, it's just more, and I appreciate what you're doing. We all do, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time and energy. I know it's been a lot of time put in, but it's very worthwhile for the students.
Well, speaking of math, tis the season to talk about math and what our district math looks like as we prepare our budget for the 2014-15 school year. Our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Enrique Catalan, will walk us through what I hope is a very straightforward and and easy budget. Not that any budget is easy, but we have some great financial news to share and opportunities to seize that will hopefully result in a low drama budget.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Jessica Nash and all her students for the pictures. This is a great picture, a magician trying to show what's coming, and what's coming is hopefully magic.
It's gonna take some magic, right?
It's going to take some magic. Long-term projections. Probably you cannot see it. I cannot see a lot, but basically, for the following years, we expect to have proposed budgets with increases of less than 2%, tax levies at 2% or below that, and a tax cap that we expect to be also at 2%. But for this year, the good news is that our tax levy is going to be zero. That means that there's going to be no increase in your taxes for the school district. We promised you back in December that if we pass the bond, you will not see a big increase in taxes for the operating budget. The increase is zero. Our budget will increase 1.8%. Last year, our budget was $72.1 million. This year is 73.4, almost, an increase of $1.2 million. So where is the money coming from? As always, thank you, taxpayers. Tax levy represents about 56%. Also, thank you, Indian Point and all the other pilots. That's going to be about $24 million this year. State aid, we're expected to increase a little bit compared to last year. Then we have other income, and we expect to have to use fund balance of $1.4 million. We expect to use no more than 300 from our savings, and the rest will be from savings from this year.
Enrique, is part of the savings the no heat tonight? I just had to throw that in here because we're just so, we're definitely
I was going to say that.
It's our energy source.
We're definitely conserving here.
I think we can go up a couple of degrees. I mean,
I agree. We,
Cold rooms makes the
is
sport
this the
easy.
way it is all day, Dr. Rogers? Yeah, we're cold all day in the high school. Thank you.
Wool and heavy socks. She says the school is really cold. But we adjusted her clothing.
There you go.
Good job.
Thank you.
That's
We
part of the
will
savings.
definitely, we'll try to talk about that later.
We're digressing.
Exactly. As always, we need to present the budget by law in three parts: administrative, program, and capital. The administrative, it's only 3%. It's only a small portion. It will increase 3.1%. The program, which is what goes directly to the children, will increase 2.5%, and our capital will decrease 2.3% to the increase of 1.9%. So what's the largest increases in our budget? First, again, unfortunately, teachers' retirement system. The increase in the budget this year is going to be $548,000. Our health insurance continues to increase, but fortunately less than in the past. In the past, the increases have been 3% in the premiums. This year, the increase is only 1.5%. And finally, unfortunately, legal fees. Legal fees have increased substantially, and I expect this to continue next year an increase of $113,000. So if you can imagine, those three increases represents more than 2% of our levy. So our tax cap is zero, so we need to find a way to save somewhere else for these increases. Yes.
I see the increase for teachers' retirement, but I don't see any increase here for wages. Is the contract flat? Is anybody getting?
No, these are the largest increases. Over the next 3 months, we're going to go portion by portion. So in 2 weeks, I think, we're going to discuss the teacher salaries and benefits. This is just a snapshot of the whole budget. And then
Programming budget, and frankly, the teachers' contracts are available, they're online.
No, I know. I would just think there has to be pay raises, has to be.
I'm sorry, I'm just protocol, just, if we can just do the questions at the end, and then
Oh,
we'd
I'm
love to
sorry,
have
go
you come up and just,
That's fine, go
state your,
ahead.
well, we know who you are now. So, you're Audrey's mom.
So these are just the three largest increases in percentage. So now you can ask the questions. Thank you for the attention. Now it's time for the questions. And I can answer this question. For next year, the teachers the teachers that are not in STEP will get a $1,000 increase. The teachers that are in STEP will get half a step in the month of February.
And we'll be able to cost, well.
I don't have the exact cost now, but at least.
In maybe the next, maybe.
Sure.
When we-
The teachers for the first 15 years that work in the district, every year they move a step, meaning they have an automatic increase. So now instead of moving a complete step, they will move half a step, not in September. The increase will be in February, so it's half a step of half a step.
I just thought that wage increases, 1,000 if they're already 80 on a, 1,000 average, it's 1%.
Again,
That'll definitely be in the program budget, you'll see that.
and the salaries teachers is an increase of less than 0.5%. These increases we're talking about probably the teachers' retirement system. We're talking about an increase of about 8 to 10%. So all those numbers were as a percentage. The three highest percent increase
Well,
number.
they're not the highest increases in the budget, they're the highest percentage of
Yes.
themselves. So if something's
Year to
20
year.
bucks, it goes to 40, it
It's
doubles,
year to year.
it makes the lift. Got it.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions that they would like to?
Well, there's one comment to go to that. Is that over the last 3-4 years, we've negotiated all our contracts to try to get it, well, since the tax levy cap came into place, we've renegotiated all our contracts to try to get them underneath, to match that rate of increase so that they would, we didn't have to lay people off just to get underneath the cap.
Well, in that sense, we didn't do a very good job because our tax cap is zero. So, we didn't know that because we did it before the rules of the tax cap. Everyone called it 2% tax cap, but it's really not 2%. By the way, like I said in our last meeting, the tax cap for the districts in New York, it starts at 1.46%, so not even for the rest of the districts, it's 2%. Really, the tax cap is the lower of 2% of rate of inflation, and the rate of inflation was 1.46%. So, but we tried. We tried to maintain salaries below 2%. Not only salaries, salaries plus benefits.
Any other questions? Everybody's frozen. There you go.
Okay.
Freezing.
You can have the flip that would be all our savings. So
Actually,
that would be.
Actually, there is one question, and I was trying to scan it today. The governor has proposed that 2 years out, in order to keep the tax cap levy, you have to start consolidating with other governments. So are we looking at that, or are we waiting to see if that actually goes into place?
Well, Joe and I went to visit town of Portland. We got a meeting with them, with Linda, and we discussed all the shared services. And I don't think there are that many school districts that have so many shared services compared to us. We really work together with the town, and we save a lot of money. So what else can we do? I don't know. As the legislator progresses on what exactly they expect from us, we'll work with them. But definitely, any good idea that they have, we're willing to hear, because we work well with the town of Cortland.
There's a lot about shared services, I mean, between districts as well as, intergroups, so. I think right now, I think our focus has to be these numbers, but, absolutely, and, but it's again, wait and see, I think.
It's a wait and see situation.
So, thank you. I'm sorry.
John Mattis. I have two questions. One is, I understand the retirement, how that increases. I understand how the health insurance increases. What's driving the legal fees? 113,000 seems like a pretty big increase. Is there anything that's really driving that?
Well, unfortunately, we have a couple of lawsuits. Our lawyers believe that we are going to prevail, but unfortunately, we need to defend ourselves, and those are expensive. So they are not going away. This year, for example, I already had to move about $100,000 into those account codes. So we want to be as transparent as we can. So putting it somewhere else, knowing that next year we'll have to go there, let's be open. We don't think there's a problem with the school. We just think that litigations,
It's
it's
preparation,
part of
and hopefully.
doing business.
Hopefully it's just being conservative.
And then the second is really a clarification. That report from the state that apparently is a lot of smoke. The short-term borrowings, I mean, $20 million from a pilot is what, 25% of the budget or something? Roughly a $70-some million budget.
Keep going with this one, go ahead.
No, I just want to clarify. What are you doing? RANs or TANs or something, short term? And then these are all cleared up in a matter of, what, weeks or months or whatever? They're not very long term, are they?
Oh. They are, this year I think it's 277 days. And the reason is because we get the first payment from Entergy the last week in December, and the first payment from town of Cortland either the last week in December or the first week in in January. So those are I'm already half through. So I usually borrow between $3 and $4 million. But that's on a yearly basis. That hasn't changed. And it's because I already went through supposedly half my expenses when I haven't gotten more than 15 to 20% of my revenues. So I'm always off $3 million, about $3 million. It's not a big number. It's only $3 million for an operation this size. But it's just matching revenues with expenses.
But there's also another way to look at it. Instead of keeping taxpayers' money in a reserve fund to be able to have that money there to play, we just borrow short term rather than holding a reserve of that amount.
And by the way, John, we're paying 35 basis points on this money. I mean, very cheap.
Yeah, and the fact that the controller has warning signals, so to speak, that sounds terrible, but in my former district, because of the threat of state aid being withheld, there was a mid-year crisis in 08 or 09. Governor said, we're not going to make your payment in April, we're going to give it all to you in June. A number of districts had to go out and borrow. We borrowed $10 million of a $121 million budget.
That used to be a problem with the late budgets. They always hold.
That's exactly it. So that, that arm of the state wasn't talking to the funding arm, and who gets stuck in the middle are school districts and boards, and you get on some stupid list.
Thank you for clarifying that as well.
So then we can move to the administrative budget very quickly.
You wouldn't say anything about it if you were on the
How
sideline.
much we spent on the board. Basically, the board needs to get trained, needs to go to professional development. We have a district clerk that helps the board, helps the district. She's there now here and in all our budget votes. And then we need to have some money for district meetings, meaning we need to pay the people who come to and help us during our budget vote. So this is only $29,000 out of our total budget. The second part is central administration. That's the office of the superintendent, my office, and this includes salary for the superintendent and his staff, my salary and my staff, and then what we pay our treasurer, our auditors, our tax. We need to pay the city of Peekskill for them to collect our taxes. So part of that money that we pay is there. The increase in this area is 3.6%, or $37,000. The next one is central services, and here is where the big increase is. We have the legal fees. Then we have personnel department, that's Alice's office. So we have half of her salary, one of her secretaries. Then we have public relations. We have our BOCES administrative fees. We participate in BOCES, and we always have to pay them some fees. And then we have our insurance plan for all our buildings, our buses, and all our insurance needs. Here the increase is about 10%, or $94,000. Finally, we have curriculum development and supervision, and again, it starts with the second job of Alice and half her salary, her other secretary. Then we have strategic planning that we're increasing it finally by $5,000, so Joe can have new programs going on. Then we have curriculum development for teachers. And finally, we have the school business administration. This represents all our principals and his and her secretaries. So basically here, the budget stays the same. And this brings us to the total, and the budget now, the total administrative budget will increase 3.1% or $137,000 from $4.4 million to $4.5 million. Simple, easy, this is the easy part. Basically, all the increases in salaries are contractual. The rest is insurance, are our needs, and we're trying to keep them low.
To attain that zero increase, how did the teachers' retirement help us?
Well, remember, this was only administrators. And that's why if you look at the
I'm
administrators,
just saying, over the snapshot you gave us.
okay.
0%,
Sure.
zero to tax.
So,
maybe the taxpayers know by the incentive what we did to help.
for the total budget, the teacher's retirement, we are taking into account that we're going to replace 11 out of the 12 that retire. The total savings in our budget was close to $1,092,000, including benefits, including Social Security, TRS, and that also takes into account that the teachers that are retiring with a health insurance, and we're going to pay the full premium. So the net was $1,092,000 that we don't have to cut.
So that was one of the big reasons.
It was,
Initially, when we were, I think, at .94, now we're down to 0, or .76, now we're down to 0, where there's not going to be a tax increase.
and obviously here, the only retirement here is Haylene Keynes. That's why if you look at school business administration, it goes down $9,000 based on the difference between Haylene's salary and the new and the next principal of Furnace Woods.
And I think they're saying the net difference, though. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
It's so cold.
Everybody's got their coats on. Thank you.
Thank you,
Can I-
Enrique.
Any audience questions?
Audience comments?
No?
Well, real quick, do we foresee any, with this, the governor's budget, the preliminary, do we foresee any, I see where it looks like this.
Actually, let me just tell you, I'm projecting the same state aid as last year, and the budget has an increase of 3% in the educational budget. But in my numbers, I'm keeping it the same.
If we get more as they're projecting.
If we get more, then we will use less fund balance.
Because he's projecting more.
Yes.
More money we give to.
He's projecting 3.1%, but I don't know if it's going to everyone the same or how they are going to allocate the 3.1%.
Very conservative, so if we get that, it's going to be
So it's going to be less fund balance that we'll use.
Enrique, my question is, we always talk year to year about being able to save some money. Are we able to do that? But you just said we're going to spend some fund balance.
Well, again, the idea this year is if we get the 3.1%, probably we'll only need to use between $250,000 and $300,000 of fund balance. I'm hoping that if we don't have any surprises between now and the end of the year, we will end up with probably even a little bit more fund balance. But we're only halfway, so I cannot predict. But if we don't get any surprises, I feel comfortable that our fund balance will go up again.
Good, good, because that's where we've had issues with.
Yes.
can we start to look possibly, as we've been talking about on the
Right.
facilities committee?
That's what I mean.
Putting away money.
Putting some of that money, if we have excess, if, the numbers come in, start putting money away so we don't have to go to the public with these big bonds all the time, that we'll have money that we can start doing some of these reparations on an ongoing.
Unfortunately, by the time I know if we're going to be fine, it's too late to increase the budget. That's the unfortunate part, that I can, we have to make a decision on the budget, because that's what the community votes for in March, late March. By then, I still have 3 months that if we have a problem and I need to put money there, then
But we still have to start looking into the future, how we have like the reserve, just putting money aside for buildings if we
So a
have.
rainy
certain-
day.
Oh,
Start-
in that sense,
I.e. like the
in-
roofs, we had to go into a separate bond, if we have like a rainy day fund for capital.
in that sense, no question about it. In May, I will have a much better idea. Then I can come to the board and ask the board to pass a resolution that any excess money that we save this year can go to those reserves, and we can tap those reserves whenever we want.
That's fine. I think
Yes.
We need to start planning like we do in technology, we have to start
Mhm.
planning for the structures of the.
And we'll put the money in the reserves. Yes.
Thank you. All right, no audience comments? Okay, that brings us to any board comments? Charles?
this new
No,
business?
it's gotta be short.
76 words or less.
I'm counting.
25 or less. I don't want to get pneumonia back again.
We were,
Back on the way.
we were invited, Diane Rovich is an author, educator, and historian who served in both Bush administrations as Assistant Secretary of Education. And she's written several books, and so
She's counting. You're up to
this
20
is this is the
exactly.
introduction.
No,
So-
that counts.
I went, several people saw it on video. She had an hour-long program. And to me, it was at core 2 assertions. One was a spirited celebration of American public schools and education. She called them the foundation of democracy, the anchor of the community, and that they create the American competitive advantages of creativity, imagination, risk-taking, spirit, and innovation. And she commented that test scores in the United States is based on NAEP scores, and graduation rates in American public schools have never been higher over the last 30 years. Her second assertion was a determined attack on government and education policy and policymakers who are, in her words, attempting to privatize American public education. And she mentioned Bill Gates and the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation and several others who are privately influencing American public education policy. She mentioned the Bush and Obama administrations, from No Child Left Behind through Race to the Top.
71?
And their administration policy.
5 more words.
She said that.
This is good.
Got it. Said the administrative policy are focused on only one element of what community wants from schools, which is test scores, and they're not focused on all the other things that schools do that we've seen tonight. And that was basically the 2 things that she focused on. She had a lot more to say, but that was it.
I love
It was a very good talk, and her book is excellent.
it. Her books are excellent.
And my favorite thing she said was, I don't care if my 3rd grader is college and career ready.
Correct.
She has
I
a
wanted to have a
grandson
childhood.
now. That's why. Her whole thinking is turned around. Diane Ravitch used to be so pro testing and everything else, and it's great to see now. Right.
And Dr. Gottlieb was her son's 3rd grade teacher. No?
I was her son 5th and 6th grade teacher.
Oh, got it.
Okay. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the meeting. Our next meeting is 3 weeks from tonight. It's February 12th. Be here. Hopefully we'll have some heat by then. or it'll at least be warmer outside, we can open the windows. And before that, we have a meet and greet at Dunkin' Donuts, and that will be next Saturday morning at 8:30. Please feel free to come and let us know what your concerns are. Thank you again, and have a good night. Can I get a motion to close? All those in favor?
Thank you.